Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress. Who could forget the beautiful finish of the 2016 World Championship match between Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, and his challenger Sergei Karyakin? Let's relive this memory. Let's remind ourselves what happened here. After 49, King h7, Carlsen played the queen sacrifice, Queen h6, check, and Karyakin resigned, as we just saw. If he would have taken with the pawn, then there is Rook takes f7, checkmate, and if he would have taken with the king, then there is Rook h8, checkmate. Beautiful. I made two videos on this. One, of course, was the video of the tiebreak itself, video number 107 on the Chess to Impress channel, and then it turned out that there were two examples of Carlsen's miracle move being anticipated. There were two other games in which this theme occurred, and I made a video on that as well, and that was number 154. But I have to do it again because another game has turned up, and we're gonna have a look at that game in this video. The game was played in the Olympiad in Haifa in Israel in 1976. It was the 6th of November. And white was Werner Hook, an international master from Switzerland, and black was Lubomir Kavalek, who played for the United States and who originally was from Czechoslovakia. In the end, it turned out that the USA won that Olympiad. Many of the Eastern European countries were not there. And this was a game in the 11th round. Let's have a look at what happened. Werner Hook was white, Lubomir Kavalek was black. e4, c5, knight f3, d6, we're in the Sicilian. Bishop b5 check, knight d7, d4, knight gf6, and here the main move is knight c3, but Hook chose to castle. Also perfectly okay. C takes d4, queen takes d4, and e5, kicking the queen. Queen went back to d3, keeping the e4 pawn protected. h6, c4, bishop e7, and here again knight c3 is the main line of the theory, but Hook played c5. That pawn was taken, and now the e5 pawn is unprotected, so Hook took that one. Black castled, white took on d7, bishop took back, and e5. Here Kavalek took on b5, queen took back, and queen d7. A queen swap is perfectly reasonable here, but Hook wanted to keep the queens on the board and played queen b3. Knight g4, bishop f4 to protect the e5 pawn, queen f5, bishop g3, and there goes the e pawn, but white can take on b7 to maintain material equality. Bishop f6, and by now Hook must have regretted not having swapped the queens, because black is better. Knight c3, finally developing that knight, and knight d3, and that knight is a real thorn in white's side. Knight d5, rook a d8, attacking that knight. Hook took on f6 with check, queen takes back. Black is better here. His minor piece is better than white's minor piece. The bishop on g3 looks nice, but it's really shooting into open air. There's nothing to target at. If it was on c3, it would be much better, and then the position would be about equal, but it is not on c3, it is on g3. b3 played by Werner Hook, a6, rook ad1, rook fe8, queen c7, and h5, threatening h4, harassing the bishop. So Hook played h4 himself. And there comes a rook into white's position, rook e2. Queen a5 is an interesting move. The idea is to play rook d2 to deal with that rook infiltrating on the second rank. Rook d7 from black. There comes rook d2, and Kavalek did not want to swap the rook, so he played rook e4. Rook fd1, rook ed4 protecting the knight, rook e2, king h7, and rook e3. Queen g6 from black, rook to f1, and here comes f5. White is under a lot of pressure and now decides to give an exchange to get rid of that strong knight. Black, the Grandmaster, was really able to outplay the international master strategically. So Werner Hoek took on d3, rook takes back, and he gets another pawn for his trouble. Rook 3 d4, queen c8, queen g4, and rook to e1, which is a bad move. Both players here were in raging time trouble. Kavalek found the very strong move f4, and you cannot retreat the bishop to h2, which looks horrific anyway. That bishop completely boxed in. But to make it worse, there's also the very strong move queen e2, and white has a bottom rank problem. You cannot take that queen because of rook d1 check, rook e1, and rook takes e1 is checkmate. If you play, instead of taking the queen, play the rook to f1, then there is rook d1, and black is easily winning here as well. So white looked for counterplay with rook e8, and here comes the Carlsen move. If black had found it, of course he was in terrible time trouble. This is the 35th move, and the time control was at 40 moves. And what I found is that both players really had hardly any time left. What black could have played here is mate in 5, starting with rook d1 check, king h2, f takes g3 check, and f takes g3. Then there is the beautiful Carlsen queen sacrifice, queen h3 check. If you take with the pawn, there is rook 7 d2 check, rook e2, and checkmate. If you take with the king, then there is rook h1 checkmate. And that's what we saw in the Carlsen Karjakin game, and also twice in the other video that I made. Kavalek didn't see it. He took on g3, and now suddenly white could have saved himself, but he didn't have time to find it. Although rook h8 check looks like a good move, a normal move. That's why you play the rook to e8, and in time trouble it's always good to give a check. Werner Hoek did not play it, but he had a perpetual check here. After rook h8 check, king g6, queen e8 check, rook f7, queen c6 check, king f5, queen c5 check, king f6. Then the only move that draws is queen b6 check. Not easy to find, most definitely not in time trouble. That queen b6 check is move 40. But this is a draw. Werner Hoek didn't see it or didn't think that this would lead to anything for him. So he took back on g3, and it's just a rook down. Here Kavalek could again have played rook d1 check, but of course if you didn't see it on the previous move, then it's very unlikely that you're going to see it now. He played queen f5, rook f8, queen e6, rook e8, queen f7. Both players were trying to make the time control. This is move 38. Again here, rook d1 check would have won the game on the spot. Rook f8, queen e6, rook e8, and queen d5. Again, rook d1 check would have won the day here. The time control was reached, the game was adjourned, and white decided to play on the next day. Rook h8 check, king g6, queen takes a6 check, and now white has 3 pawns for the rook, but it's not enough. Black is easily winning. Rook d6, queen c8, queen e6, queen c3, rook d3, queen a5, and the last move of the game was queen e3 check, and Werner Hoek resigned. He's being checkmated. Let's have a quick look. If king h1, then there's rook d1 check, king h2, queen g1 check, king h3, and checkmate. If instead of king h1 white tries king h2, then there is queen takes g3 check, king g1, and rook d1 check with checkmate on the next move. Nice win for Kavalek, outplaying his opponent in the middle game. And if he had found that mating combination, the game would have been even more beautiful. It was the Dutch Grandmaster Jan Timman who wrote about this game in the magazine New in Chess. And in that same article he said that somebody asked him if that Carlsen queen sacrifice would also be possible in a chess composition, in a problem composition. And Timman had a go at that himself. Let's look at what he came up with. This is the composition that Jan Timman made to show this Carlsen queen sacrifice motive. It's white to play and mate the black king on the third move. Of course, white is a ton of material up, queen, 2 rooks and a knight versus 4 pawns, but it's about the mate in 3. It's very easy to win this position for white, but how can we checkmate in the required number of moves? Now let's try something. Let's try an obvious move, something like queen e1 with a checkmate threat queen h4. But that doesn't work, because then black promotes to queen. You have to take that queen, and then there is g5. And there is no checkmate move on the next move, which is the third move. There's checkmate in 4, for example queen takes g5, and then for example d3, and then queen h5 is checkmate. But that's mate in 4 and not in 3. Let's try something else. Let's try queen b1. That looks like a good move, because if now you promote g1 queen, then there is rook h5 checkmate, because the g-pawn is pinned. That's mate in 2 even. So it looks like we found a solution, but after queen b1, black can play d3. And we found out that no matter what we try, we cannot checkmate the black king in 2 moves from here. The rook h5 move is no longer possible because the g-pawn is no longer pinned, and whatever we try, we cannot checkmate the king in 2 moves. So queen b1 is also not a solution. So what is the solution then? If you want to look further for yourself, put the video on hold, because I give the solution now. The only first move which leads to mate in 3 is the more or less surprising knight b1. How could that be helping us? Well, if you now promote with black, which is the only reasonable defense to make it difficult for white, then suddenly the queen is not pinned, the white queen, and the queen can play the move queen to h6 check. And we see a familiar pattern, because if you take that queen with the pawn, then there is rook 5 to c7 checkmate. And if you take the queen with the king, then there is rook h8 checkmate. And we see the same mating pattern as in Carlsen Karjakin and as in Hoek Kavalek. Quite a nice problem showing this motive with the surprising first move, knight b1. Nice composition from Grandmaster Jan Timman. Hope you enjoyed this video on the Carlsen Miracle Move motive. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and I'm looking forward to your comments. If you like the video, it would be great if you could share it on YouTube. You also may want to check out my Chess to Progress channel, the link is in the description box. This is Rick from Chess to Impress. Thank you very much for watching this video.